The letter belonging to the fourth arcanum of the tarot is Daleth, the numerical value of which is 4. The hieroglyph is a breast, which gives us the idea of feeding and of the accompanying authority. The result of this act is the cause which enables the subject of that feeding to perform all his activities in the outer world. The picture for this arcanum represents a man sitting on a cubic throne, with a triple crown on his head, suggesting that his power extends to all the 3 worlds or planes. This is because he who wants to be an authority in a certain realm must be acquainted with all 3 planes of that realm. In his right hand, the man holds a scepter, ending with the sign of Venus, or Jupiter. The first conception tells us about the necessity of creating individualized beings and also of whole groups like our earthly humanity. The second symbol may indicate that the astrological sign of Jupiter belongs to this arcanum. On good cards of the tarot, we may see that the position of the hands and shoulders of the figure form an ascending triangle, with its head as the apex. The right leg is crossed over the left, so that a kind of square cross is formed. The man's back leans against the cubic seat, on which we see an eagle with the cross of the great Hierophant, see figure 8, hanging from its neck. Now we can pass on to an explanation of these symbols. The cubic seat of polished stone tells us of the perfect form. Authority always appears in an outer form which has been prepared in advance. Each side of this cube is a square, so that this figure is one of the geometrical symbols of the fourth arcanum. The eagle depicted on the seat shows the necessity for the high flight of thoughts. He who wants to give a perfect form to things must be an engineer, a constructor, and not only a tradesman, a carpenter. This idea is further supported by the cross of the great Hierophant. The perpendicular stem of the cross means the channel through which flows the current, passing through the 3 lower worlds, symbolized by the horizontal arms of the cross. In order to make the form perfect, one should not only catch the idea, but be able to realize it in its mental, astral, and physical phases. The cross formed by the legs of the man is another geometrical symbol of this arcanum. The arcanum is also called Petra Cubica, or cubic stone. In vulgar language, the name of the fourth arcanum is the Emperor, because of his crown and scepter. In the theosophical ternary, it will be form on the plane of the archetype, authority on the plane of man, adaptation on the plane of nature. We are now close to the basic idea of the whole Hermetic philosophy, that is, the idea of the quaternary, also called tetragrammaton. From the introduction to this work, we already know something about it, so now we will examine it in more detail. It is the general formula of each performed dynamic process in the universe. In the language of the Gnostics, we read, the active, male, expansive, principle, yod, fecundates, vivifies. The passive, female, attractive, one, the hay. From this union arises, or rather is born, the third element, va, which is androgynous, neutral, borrowing, and transmitting that which is borrowed, down to the next cycle. When this pattern is fulfilled, the conception of the first family appears, as a finished cycle of manifestation. Then we use the fourth letter, the second, active hay, as a recognition of the perfected creation, the created family, and from this comes the symbolization of the essentially passive hay, something made, or arisen, which immediately becomes active because it begins the new cycle, as Yod did in the first one. This tetragram is known as the third great name of Almighty God. To this name the Kabbalah ascribes miraculous power, under the condition that it be rightly pronounced, which gives it the force of realization. In my various occult studies of different origin, I have encountered the statement that so far, no known human being has been able to find the right pronunciation. It is said that the high priest of the great temple of Jerusalem used the highest name in certain exceptional cases, but very seldom. To begin, he said the first letter Yod, then the second, and so on, until the cycle was completed. Then he tried to read the whole tremendous word from the beginning to the end. Despite the fact that nobody could record its true sound, some 18th century authorities on the subject give Yehovah as an approximate spelling, while others strongly oppose this, giving Yeve or Yahweh. Personally, I have heard still another version, as given in the Eastern Church, Yahweh. Anyway, when pronouncing the great name, the high priest expressed the full pattern of the elementary cycle at the beginning, next the androgyny of humanity, and finally, its unity and the law of that unity. In order that the layman could not hear the holy name, the words of the priest were drowned by loud sounds from drum-like instruments. According to Figure 11, the cycle, Yod-He-Vod-He, gives the same word in both directions of rotation of the quaternary's cross, but tradition recognizes the reading of the tetragrammaton in reverse, that is, like Havayoth, as an expression of the realm of anarchy, in other words, the kingdom of Satan. For that purpose the name is not read from the vertical axis of Yod-Vah, but from the horizontal one. In ceremonial magic, any use of the name in reverse is strongly forbidden, as bringing disaster to the operator and his surroundings. But in their repulsive rituals, so-called black magicians have been credited with that perversion, in order to obtain favors from the devil, who allegedly likes, above all else, to hear his own ominous name of Havayoth pronounced by his servants. So runs the old tradition. Now imagine that our first family, the first cycle, Yod-He-Vod-He, begins to act upon, or create another element in the outer surroundings, or the world. It simply means that one cycle, merely by the fact of its existence, gives rise to conditions for the production of another. It acts through its last element, that is the second He, which becomes an active principle, like the Yod of the first cycle. If we look on our cross of the quaternary, we will see that the aforementioned process is just the turning of the quaternary, by 90 degrees in the so-called hermetic circle. The new cycle will again have its active and creative second He, which in turn will seek another passive element He, and the whole process will be repeated again and again. Now, coming from the theoretical tetragrammaton to the world in which we have to spend our lives, I would like to underline the most important fact for every student of the tarot. He must realize and understand the law of four, if he wants to achieve some success in his striving, or even to form a firm and logical basis for his own inner philosophical conception, which may illumine his life on this plane. Every clearly thinking mind will appreciate the great law, if only he has the opportunity to contact it. Moreover, there is no substitute for the tetragrammaton. No other theory is able to give you such a clear and realistic conception. Of course, not every mind is able to cope with this great idea, which comes to us from the distance of many thousands of years, as a testament of those who lived long before us, and have left us the most precious thing they possessed, their highest discovery of the basic truth of manifestation. But, for those who know more, and for those who really want to know more, I say, if you are able to rule and to exclude all the functions of your lower principles, that is, your mind, brain, and astral consciousness, then go beyond all manifestation and its laws. It is possible, for many have performed it, and so return to the inconceivable, unknown Father, the Absolute, Alpha and Omega, beginning and end, without qualities, timeless, beyond all good and evil, above all relativity. To that about which Buddha and Sankarsara dreamed, in which all saints hoped to find their final rest, and which was realized before our eyes and for us by the last great Rishi of India, the Maharishi Ramana.